The Barn and the Book. Chapter 11, Part 2. Sister Anna came over to the podium. "Are there any other children who would like to read?" Macrina glanced around at her classmates. Elias wiggled his eyebrows at her. "Well, if that's all," began Sister Anna. "No," said Sam, "it's not all." Everyone in the room turned with one motion and stared at Sam. Sam never talked in class. He had been completely silent while the other children read their stories. He sat in his chair, staring at Saucer, waiting for him outside the window. "Do you have a story to share?" asked Sister Anna. Sam stood up and pulled a folded paper out of his back pocket. "Come and read it," said Sister Anna, smiling and patting the podium. Sam pushed back his chair with his foot and walked to the podium. The whole class watched his every move. Sam didn't look at them. He put his paper on the podium and carefully unfolded it. His fingers trembled a little. He smoothed out the paper and glanced at Saucer, whose nose was pressed against the glass. Sam made a choking gargling sound, clearing his throat. There was no other sound in the room. He lifted his paper, holding it with his fingertips, and began to read. "Here is something to put in the monastery book." His voice sounded raspy and hoarse at first. "It is not a story, it is something that happened." Sam stopped. The children heard a scrabbling, clicking sound as Saucer pawed the window. Sam continued. "On Christmas Eve at midnight, I was in the barn. I heard a story that animals can talk then for 1 hour. It's the only time they talk that people can hear them and know what they say. I like animals, especially Saucer, so I went." Sam stopped again. He set his paper down carefully and wiped his face on his sleeve. Then he picked up the paper and started reading again. "I went to sleep in the barn, and I didn't hear the animals talk. I woke up in the morning and I ran away because I was too sad to stay. I wanted to hear Saucer talk really bad, but I didn't hear him. Maybe he talked. Maybe he didn't. I don't know if it's true or if it's a fake that animals talk at midnight on Christmas. That whole day, my parents tried to talk to me and help me feel better. I know they care about me, and that's good, but I felt sad about Christmas Eve. The next Sunday, Sister Anna came to find me when I was by myself outside the barn. She said one time she had a day like I did. It was a day when she tried to make God tell her something when it wasn't the right time. At first, I didn't know what she meant. But she said, 'Sam, you are like me. You set a trap for God. You want to know something God isn't ready to tell you, so you tried to make him tell you. But you have to wait, like me.'" Sam took a deep, ragged breath and flipped his paper over. There was more writing on the back. "You might think that was just an excuse. You might think Sister Anna was trying to make God look good because the animals talking was a fake. But wait, because there was one more thing." The children were leaning forward now. Grace looked at Elias. She knew he was wondering the same thing she was wondering. What was the one more thing? "Sister Anna said sometimes we are so busy pushing God to show us one thing that we don't see that he is showing us something else. I asked her what does that mean, and she said she saw something when she found me in the barn. What she saw was all the animals sitting with me. When I went to sleep, they were all in their own parts of the barn, in their pens. Only Saucer was with me, but when I woke up, they were sitting together in a circle around me. They kept me warm, and they stayed with me until I woke up." Sam set the paper down one more time and wiped his face on his shirt sleeve. He took a big breath and picked up the paper. "When someone finds this book about the monastery 100 years from now, I want them to know that I wish I had stopped to look at the animals who were there with me. I ran out of the barn. I was angry because I didn't hear them speak. I didn't stop and remember that Saucer and Arrow can open pens. They'd get on their back legs and flip the catch up with their noses. On Christmas Eve, they opened pens for me, and the animals came out for me. And I didn't even notice. Next year, I'm going back, and when I wake up and the animals are all around me, I'm going to stay there with them and say thanks." Sam drew a long, trembling breath. Sister Anna came toward him, and he handed her his paper. Outside the window, Saucer barked. Sam ducked around Sister Anna and ran out of the room. The children sat still. Sister Anna stood in front of them holding Sam's paper. Suddenly, Grace stood up. She stood up so quickly that her chair fell over. Everyone jumped. "I vote we put Sam's story in the book," said Grace loudly. "I liked writing my story, and I think Macrina liked writing her story, but Sam's story is the most important. That's the story that should go in the book." "That's right," cried Elias. "I vote for Sam." "Me too," said Matthew, and the other children chimed in. "We vote for Sam. Put Sam's story in the book." The classroom was quite loud for a minute or two, and then everyone turned to Macrina, who had stayed quiet, meeting no one's eyes. "Hush now," said Sister Anna, setting Sam's story carefully on the podium. "We'll raise our hands. That's the best way." The children settled down. "Raise your hand if you would like Sam's story to be chosen for the book," said Sister Anna. Hands shot into the air all over the classroom. Every child voted for Sam. Everyone except Macrina. Sister Anna looked at their eager faces and the hands waving high in the air. "Thank you, children," she said. She paused. "Macrina, is there anything you'd like to say before we make the final decision?" Heads turned. Macrina smoothed her tidy manila folder. Then she looked up. "Can we still share our stories at the celebration?" she asked wistfully. Sister Anna smiled. "Of course, dear. I'm going to make copies of all your stories, and we'll hand them out to each guest who comes to the celebration. All of your stories were beautiful in different ways. I don't want any of them to be lost." Elias sat forward in his chair. "Macrina, I have an idea." Macrina turned in her seat. "What is it?" "You could send your story to the newspaper, the one from our town. I bet they will have an article about the monastery when the celebration happens." Macrina's eyes gleamed. She turned to Sister Anna. "How do you send a story to the newspaper?" Sister Anna laughed. "I don't know how, Macrina, but I'm sure Sister Catherine can help you." "I'll ask her after class," said Macrina. Sister Anna looked around the classroom. "So we've decided. Sam is the one whose story will go in the book." "I want to tell him," said Grace excitedly. "I want to tell him too," said Elias. Sister Anna glanced at the window. Saucer's spot was empty. "Actually, I want to tell him myself," she said. "You children go upstairs and tell your families. Thank you all for your hard work and for being such good listeners when your friends were reading. Have a blessed feast day." "Happy Theophany! Happy Theophany!" The tide of children swelled and rolled out of the classroom, down the hall and up the stairs. Sister Anna heard their joyful voices bringing the good news. Alone in the classroom, Sister Anna closed her eyes and bowed her head. "Glory to God in the highest," she said.